Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 11th episode of Tex Messages. Today it's March 29th, 2018. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to be here once again. And today we finally got a little bit of sunshine. Maybe it'll be cloudy later today, but as of right now, the sun is out, which is great. It fits perfectly with the theme of today's show. And ultimately, I think it'll just brighten everyone's day a little bit more. So, the one thing I wanted to talk about today, very near and dear to my heart, is about this show advocates pro-common sense, pro-human, pro-family. So I wanted to delve into a little bit about being pro-family and the importance of a stable, strong family and extended family and all that stuff too. Now friends are also very important too, but for today I'll just focus exclusively on family, because what I have kind of somewhat noticed over the past, it's maybe been going on for a long time, but what I've noticed over the past years is there's just been it's just this weird movement, anti-family movement, trying to ban terms like mother and father and advocating for all this weird gender identification, and it's just it's sort of a misguided progressive ideals, because there is that phrase where the more things change, the more they stay the same. And as it comes to being progressive, when it comes to diverse families or just weird ideas of what a family is supposed to be, that it doesn't really make a whole lot of it violates common sense. And as far as electric cars and electric trains and airplanes and all that, and the space shuttles, being progressive in that regard, yeah, that's totally cool. That's awesome. More power to all the hardworking men and women that work on all those systems and everything too. But when humans try to progress into playing themselves as the Almighty, that's usually where things begin to spiral out of control. When you build a car, you're building a car for a human to use, and it's human made, human used. When you build a beehive or a female or a male, it's built by the Almighty. You could say, yeah, some humans use other humans, but ultimately it's built by the Almighty, and humans can't build a human. Those guys on Weird Science, yeah, they're pretty smart guys. They pretty funny guys, fun to hang out with, but building a human like that is just not realistic, not pragmatic. It's not progressive either. Just some things in life are just intended to stay the same, because that's how the earth was created. That's what makes the world go round, and that's what makes everyone human and conscious. So another thing too, it's, I don't know how long it's been going on, but there does seem to be some movement out there of maybe not advocating, but there are these social programs in place that sort of appear to be designed so that the state can raise your children. Now, whether that's through welfare, whether it's through the feminist movement and trying to get women into the workforce so that they don't want to raise children, or whether it's for some type of indoctrination in schools, whatever the case may be, there's just a lot of dangerous, pernicious forces out there that aren't always very clear. And then of course there's religions out there too that advocate polygamy, or then of course you got those weird just isolated religious sects, which is basically more or less probably just some guy wants to have sex with 13 and 14-year-olds, so he just sets up these isolated communities out in the middle of nowhere to do that. And he's probably studies a little bit of psychology, figures out how to manipulate people, and then uses that to his advantage, and then sets up these goofy little religious complexes out in the middle of nowhere and lives out his dream, I guess, which ultimately isn't quite, probably not what the Almighty had in mind. It's based on my own personal observations and just following common sense. I've been extremely blessed to be born to two mostly sane parents. They're hardworking, honest, wealthy, big, strong people. They're very responsible, caring. They have other various talents and all this other good fun stuff. and their parents as well were also, they're the type of people that have been married for 60 plus, 60, 70 years or whatever. And basically any funeral that I went to, it's always so-and-so was married to so-and-so for 60, 70 years or whatever. I mean, that's just common sense. We're in the 21st century and that's still the practice. And that was the practice 5,000 years ago, and it's the practice today for the most part because it makes sense. It's what the Almighty had created. It's why humans walk on two legs instead of walking on their arms, because that's what we were created for. I mean, there's no use in trying to fight that. I mean, yeah, if you want to go crawl everywhere or roll around in the ground to get to your destination, then by all means, go ahead and do so. You'll probably work out some weird muscles. But yeah, monogamy, some may argue that monogamy was just invented by some beta male that couldn't get any dates or whatever. And there may be some truth to that too. I mean, obviously, you can look at a guy like Ivan Drago. I mean, he can probably basically handpick any female he wants. And then you look at a guy like Elon Musk, same thing. Probably handpick any female he wants. And then females. As a male, I don't really glorify any female celebrities. I just don't see the value in doing that. But yeah, I'm sure there's females out there that could have the potential of getting, any male mate they want to, I guess. But from a physical perspective, I mean, obviously, you gotta have the mental, spiritual, and physical aspects all in mind to, have a successful long-term relationship. So getting back to the whole, polygamy. All right, I'll talk about that a little bit. So polygamy, yeah, it looks all well and great on paper. One guy, Ivan Drago, can hang out with a whole bunch of women. Now here's the problem with that, and it's a big problem. Not the whole purpose of humans, but generally our main goal is to replicate DNA without mutations, and to try in some sense to find the characteristics about ourselves and other people that we like and desire the most, and to perpetuate those characteristics. However, if you engage in an act like polygamy, say you have a village of 50 people, 25 male, 25 females, and 2 males impregnate all the females. Now all of a sudden, the next generation is going to be basically all inbreds, which inevitably leads to genetic mutation, as many aristocrats and elitists around the world have proven time and time again. Inbreeding leads to mutations. I mean, Queen Elizabeth's siblings, they're probably all in an insane asylum from inbreeding, so it's not, regardless of how great you are, how great you think you are, if you inbreed, you're going to cause an ass full of trouble. I mean, that's what the Almighty had in mind when He created humans. He created us to interact socially with people from varying backgrounds, from varying the cultures, varying geographic areas. That was probably one of the ways to get people to interact with each other and just, to have unconditional love and make the world go around and all that good fun stuff. And then, of course, those religious sects where they just, S-E-C-T-S. They're isolated out in the middle of nowhere. Just some dude, probably one of those guys with long hair or whatever, and wears a robe or, I'm not talking about Jesus. I mean, I'm talking about just some random dude that wants to look like he's some almighty, so he conjures up the image that people would typically perceive with an almighty person. So they study a little bit of psychology. I mean, I don't know crap about anything basically, so just common sense for me. So he'll set up this little goofy church out in the middle of nowhere. It'll be tax-free. He'll probably get some weird funding from some big elitist corporation or whatever, and then maybe he knows magic or something like that too. So he'll do a little bit of that and the other thing, and there. As far as I can tell, there is definitely a spiritual world too. So I mean, magic probably does exist in some planes. I mean, I don't really know magic myself, but like Harry Houdini or whatever, or David Copperfield. I mean, those guys probably know magic, so it must be real. I mean, the brain can only perceive 5 senses. Touch, sight, sound, taste, and smell. So there's probably billions of other things occurring in the world that we cannot sense. So you can take those things and somehow link them up into the human senses, then you can probably do some weird, funny things that are going to fool a lot of people. And I'm pretty easy to fool me, so yeah, it can definitely fool me. But these organizations, they have bad intentions, and one of the bad things about them is when you isolate yourself like that, the whole thing is everybody in this world, in America, we're all in it together. So if we're going to set up these weird, goofy, isolationist societies where one or two guys just want to have sex with all the 13 and 14-year-old women, I mean, not only are you going to have the inbreeding problem, when second or third generation comes around, but it's just going to be a bunch of goofballs that are out living in the middle of nowhere and they have no idea how to exist in civilized society. Now, I'm not saying, like, some communities, yeah, they want to do that. They're good, hardworking people, that's fine. But when you get some guy or gal who just has bad, horrible intentions, and now humans by them, in and of themselves, aren't really capable of very, very evil, horrible actions, but they can allow other forces to work through them. Same way with being a good, unconditionally good person. If you ever meet somebody who's just the coolest person you'll ever meet in your entire life, they're super duper nice. I mean, you could almost do anything and they're still a very nice person. They'll usually attest to allowing a higher power to work through them and use them to permeate good and everything that's right about the world. So I mean, humans as individuals, we're physical objects with a spiritual connection. So we have our physical being is only, I don't want to say we're worthless, but we have our limitations, which is why if you want to achieve very highly, very, very good things, you need to allow higher good forces of good to work within you. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, like, sometimes it is hard, but it's possible. I mean, that's basically all I'm saying here. So getting back to it, the humans, one world, we're all together and all that good fun stuff. So now, polygamy, it leads to inbreeding. Not a good thing. Yeah, I know some people are more desirable than others, blah, blah, blah. But here's the reality. Males and females, if you consider all the intricacies that are involved in a male and female, and you also consider that they have almost a nearly 1-to-1 ratio of births, it's pretty incredible. Now, yeah, obviously if you get these socially controlled societies like China where there's a 30 million or 20 million surplus of males to females, yeah, that's not entirely true, that they're 1-to-1 ratio. But if you get any normal functioning society, God-fearing, God-believing, almighty, fearing, believing, you're going to have about a 1-to-1 ratio male to female. So there's probably somebody out there somewhere that you definitely mesh with. Now, it's not quite that easy because you can't just, go walk down the street and then find someone and be like, hey, we're going to be together in one till death do us part. Because not quite that simple. Now, in the 21st century, we have definitely thousands of outlets of ways and means of communicating with other people. Yeah, I mean, online dating sites, for example, Plenty of Fish, eHarmony, Match, or whatever. Now, that's definitely, I don't know, there's something about online dating sites that just don't seem to, there's something funny about them that, I signed up for a Plenty of Fish account like 8 years ago, and I'm probably still on there. Rick, Tex, you could probably find my profile on there. Yeah, I signed up for some profile on there about 8 years ago, and they had when I first signed up, they had a chat, so you could just start chatting people up. That was pretty fun. Get on there, start talking to people, everyone was laughing and smiling and having a good time, and you could see if you made a mental connection with somebody. But now it's just, you just send messages back and forth, so you send a message and wait 2 or 3 days, they might send one back, and if they do, then you'll send one back, and then eventually it fizzles out, and then you move on with your life, and it's almost like going backwards. So I mean, I don't even really use that junk anymore. I'm just kind of meandering through life and figuring out things from there. But yeah, the monogamy relationship, 1-to-1 ratio, male to female. So usually, if you're going to meet someone with the intention of spending the rest of your life with them, having children, raising family, this, that, and the other thing, probably the best steps to follow are, first, obviously a mental connection, and probably definitely a spiritual connection, because in everybody's life there's going to be crests and there's going to be very low troughs. So you need to have some type of agreement on higher forces working within you to help you get you through all those very, very dangerous parts of your life. If you don't have that, then things can get out of control real quick and then lead to the 50% or 60% divorce rate or whatever there is in America today. I mean, I don't know about other countries. I don't know what they do. It just, I'm just trying to make America great again. So first you get the mental connection. I don't know, you talk to them at school or talk to them online or something, and for a couple of years, and then yeah, the spiritual connection. I mean, you can kind of sense when people are just unconditionally really kind, nice, considerate people that you always feel nice, good talking to them. You can talk about anything you want, basically. You don't have to worry about getting crapped on or insulted or belittled or nothing like that. And then ultimately, there's probably the physical attraction too, because I mean, if somebody, that doesn't really have to be too complicated. I mean, as long as somebody takes reasonable care of their own health, then yeah, they're probably gonna, be good enough. Like somebody like me with a compromised intestine system. I could just, if I don't eat for a while, then I just turn into a damn skeleton, and that looks really unhealthy and gross. So I mean, if any female would see that, they'd probably think, oh yeah, I don't want to deal with this guy. He's probably gonna be a corpse within 10, 20 years or something like that. So I mean, you just take care of your own body, and then you'll look good too. And if you try to mix up that order, say you go for physical attraction first, there's so many pitfalls and rabbit holes you can crawl or get swept into because of things of like perfume or makeup or clothes, or even weird things like breast and ass implants, and there's just all kinds of, I'm just speaking from a male perspective. I'm not from female, I have no idea what goes on in that mind. But from the male perspective, there's a lot of pitfalls you can fall under if you seek only first physical attraction. You gotta keep in mind, if you plan to spend the rest of your life with somebody, bear a child and all that good fun stuff, you're gonna spend, let's see, there's 24 hours a day, about 30 days in a month, so what is that, like 7,200 hours, and then multiply that by 300, so 300 times 7,000, 5 zeros. It's a lot of hours in a year that you'd be spending with somebody, presumably. Now, of course, there's other factors too. From a male perspective, you have to illustrate that you can successfully provide for the female when she's busy, building a child within her for the 9 months, and then taking care of it for the 2 other years after that, or whatever. So that's the other thing too. When males and females were specifically designed for these roles, because as a male, I can't build a child within me for 9 months, and I can't feed it out of my breast for 2 years or whatever. It's just all I can do is provide shelter, emotional support, transportation, food, energy, love, care, consideration, all that good fun stuff. And you want to be able to find someone that motivates you to do those things, because every wedding I've went to that so far has, by all accounts, appeared to be a resoundingly successful relationship. Either the groom or some of the groom's buddy or the groom's dad or somebody will say, the reason why I know that bride is the right person for this groom is because he specifically said that she makes him challenge himself to be a better person every single day. Life is a war. Every day is a battle. So you got to challenge yourself to be a better person, a better provider, a better lover, a better emotional supporter. All that good stuff. If you're just going around just half-assed meeting someone and saying, oh, she's an alright person, looks decent, so yeah, I guess I can settle for her, but I don't really feel I need to better myself. You're going to end up failing at some point, because when a relationship starts out, there's that transient phase where it's really exciting, and then it's, or maybe it gets really bad at some point, and then it eventually settles off to a steady state. So you definitely need to ensure that the initial transient phase is very, very high. So when it does meet those troughs, and when it does reach a steady state, it's still above unity. So you still know that it's going to last into perpetuity as well. Think of it this way. Think of the galaxy as humanity. And there's the stars, there's the moon, there's the earth, and there's the sun. So ultimately, you need to find your sun. Not S-O-N, S-U-N. The sun that brings you life, liberty, and and all the things that allow you to survive and thrive. Because if you're the earth, you need the sun to provide you with that life. And there's a lot of stars out there too, a lot of temptresses, as you could say. They may appear good at first, but ultimately it does not provide you with life, liberty, or anything else. So if you legitimately ask yourself who you're hanging out with is not the sun in your life, probably a good idea to move on. Now, life is only ephemeral, temporal thing, so it's a bit of a conundrum because on one hand, you figure you're not going to be alive for, for very long, 80 years, 90 years tops, and so you typically want to expedite how quickly you locate the sun in your galaxy. But on the other hand, you also don't want to waste any time with a false signal, with just a star or a dull moon or whatever the case may be. So with that being said, you have to consider your offspring, their offspring, etc., etc. So that's why that goes into perpetuity. I mean, if you look all the way up to the top, my ancestors, your ancestors, everyone else in America's ancestors, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Now, if they wasted time with people that weren't the center of their galaxy, it would have made absolutely no sense, and then you might just be some weird, meandering, physical Neanderthal that isn't capable of achieving great things like pretty much most humans are today. So that being said, we're going to have to go to a break soon, but ladies and gentlemen at home, if there's one thing you can get out of today, it's you just need to find the sun in your galaxy. That's really all there is to it. She could be right under your nose, she could be 2,000 miles away, but it's definitely out there somewhere. It's your responsibility to find it. And if that means you got to be an extraordinarily great person and allow, the Almighty to work through you and allow you to do great things, then that's what it takes. That's what you got to do to get the job done. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. I'll be back in 4 minutes, it looks like. Welcome back to Tex Messages, ladies and gentlemen. On the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to have you here on this sunny evening on March 29th, 2018. So the producers reminded last episode I forgot to do some of our research here, so I still got this old research paper from the first episode. But yeah, there's still a few things that we need to get situated here before we can get back into the focus, into our main topic of family, friendship, and fellowship and all that. So there's some junk out there called Soylent, and it's I don't know who it's marketed to, if it's marketed to people that live inside bigger cities and everything too. But I mean, ultimately, it's just derived from all this synthetic garbage. And it's basically man trying to play God and provide us with food, which always fails just about 99% of the time. So Soylent is made with corn-derived maltodextrin, soy protein, and synthetic and water. That's basically all it is. So it's just the most heavily, maybe not marketed, but the most heavily commercially farmed stuff, corn and soy, basically. That's the stuff with all the GMOs or genetic engineering, whatever the case may be. As far as GMO, genetic engineering, I forget what terms distinguish the definitions of all that stuff too. But the other thing they put in, they put a lot of synthetic chemicals, sucralose, petrochemically derived vitamin E, carcinogens, manganese sulfate, chromium diphosphate. Just a bunch of bad stuff, it looks like, and I guess just try to avoid it. I mean, I don't know if it's made out of people like the original Soylent Green or not, but it's certainly not the type of stuff that you want to eat if you want to be a particularly healthy person. Just grow your own food outside and have some hens or whatever, have them lay eggs, or get a cow from a local farm. And that's another thing too. Since we're on the theme of families, say you're a single female living in a big city or something, and you want to find the sun in your galaxy. So you're gonna find, maybe you can go out to one of these farmers' places that sell goat cheese or eggs or raw milk or pheasant meat, quarter cattle, hogs, or just go out there. There might be some single farmer out there that he just spends all day sun up to sundown, just working busting his ass out, making himself great again, making the country great again, and you might strike gold if you find somebody out there or something. I mean, if I was a single female, that's probably the first avenue I would search for. All right, now there's one other thing on here too. So the greenmedinfo.com. It's mostly like a health website. There's some guy that runs it. He has long hair. He looks like a pretty cool guy. Most people with long hair are pretty cool, both male and female. Unfortunately, those isolated religious places where the guys have long hair, there are always exceptions to rules. Maybe maybe 95% of people with long hair are cool people. So you still got your 5%, but by and large, most people are pretty cool. Okay, so greenmedinfo.com, New York State University. 93% of plastic water bottles show sign of microplastic contamination. So basically what they do is they inject it with this Nile red dye, and then they shine a light on it. And the thing with that is, other atoms that don't react with I don't know if it's water soluble or whatever the case may be, but they put a fluorescent light on it, and the dye mixes and matches together with things that aren't water, and then it gives off a luminescence. So you can shine the light in there and say, oh, there's a bunch of red stuff on it, and then say, yeah, there's a bunch of microplastic contamination. I mean, I don't know how they measure it, if it's volumetric or, obviously it's probably not by weight, because they're looking at stuff. So it's a visual inspection, and then based on that, I guess they can figure out the percentage. It's like on the old Room Raiders show when they had the black light, and they'd go on the people's bed, and then they'd shine the black light on there to see what type of chemicals may be left over on the bed. It's similar to that practice, I would imagine. So I believe that pretty much sums up all the elaborate research by the producers. There was one thing a long time ago where it said cows fed grass and legumes had a higher omega-6 to omega-3 fat ratio in the cow milk. It's more of a 1-to-1 ratio, whereas the commercial, the cows that are raised inside buildings and are just rolling around, on top of each other all day, their omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is about 5.7 to 1. Omega-6 are the types of fat that are in like cooking oil, fried cooking oil. It's I don't know if you consider it bad fat, but it's certainly in abundance as far as processed food and that thing goes, and that goes. So you definitely want to get omega-3, and I think omega-3 is like the type of fat that's in fish oil, or maybe not oil, but just fish in general. It's supposed to be good for your joints or good for your brain and all this other goofy stuff. But yeah, just maintaining not necessarily a diverse diet, but figuring out what works best for your diet is going to ensure that you run on 8 cylinders. And someday I will delve into health and how to best, not some generic articles where, bananas are healthy because of this, that, and the other. Trying to figure out what's healthy for you personally, and how to figure out what's healthy for you personally. Because again, what's healthy for you may not be healthy for me. Maybe I die from it. Maybe what's healthy for me, it's probably what's healthy for you too, but maybe not. So it's ultimately important to figure out, what works for who and how to figure that out, how to recognize patterns, how to get the best sources of food to test it out accurately. I mean, if you just buy some cow from, Big Joe Rosso's meats and it came out of this weird factory, hell, it might even be the synthetically raised meat. I mean, there are some places out there that are growing, literally, I don't know how they determine the cells in the meat. They probably just look through some microscope and they say, oh, yep, that meat looks the same as the meat from a cow, so obviously it's the same. But yeah, the people are trying to grow synthetic meat inside laboratories, hoping to sell that someday. I mean, yeah, I guess according to a few human senses it's identical, but you got to consider, there's billions and billions of things out there in the world that humans cannot sense. So that also plays into the meat too. Again, it's man attempting to play God, which fails probably 99% of the time. And the other 1% of the time, we just don't know that it fails. Or we're fooled into thinking that it doesn't fail. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. Yeah, it appears that the sheet here that the producers kindly wrote up for me is now exhausted. So ultimately, we can move on to the next set of studies, and we'll probably do that for episode 12 coming up pretty quick here. And then episode 13. I actually got some pretty big plans for episode 13. 13, it's kind of an ominous number, so we're going to do things a little bit differently. Probably film at night and maybe review some movies, tell a couple stories. Not even have a real life personal account story to tell, so this will be the first time I'll prepare for an actual show, so it could be disastrous, but ultimately that's what makes it fun to watch. So, well, hopefully it makes it fun to watch. I'm not really entirely sure on that. But yeah, ultimately we're heading up to another break here, and I was unfortunately I was not able to plug the last segment there because I got swept up in some very emotionally charged topics that I felt were very important for you, ladies and gentlemen at home, to understand very clearly. So, in the very near future, we're going to have a show called Good Times, Balls Deep. The host is just doing all kinds of research every single day. I mean, the guy could get an honorary PhD from, St. Cloud State or St. Cloud Technical College or the Minnesota School of Business or Harvard or University of Texas, A&M, all in place. I mean, if he really wanted to have a fancy piece of paper to hang on the wall, he could probably get one, no problem. He's a pretty smart guy. I mean, sure he is. He probably single-handedly raised the standard of the IQ test a little bit. So I mean, yeah, if you value IQ tests were probably just originally developed from eugenicists. So I mean, most of them are pretty specious and fallacious and are just silly. I mean, if you invent the test, then you pretty much determine who's intelligent and who's not. So yeah, Good Times, Balls Deep. It'll be coming up in the very near future. I couldn't be any more pumped for it. So there's some problems with the studio. So we're ultimately just trying to get that physiology back in line, or that physical structure built up and then prepared for you, the ladies and gentlemen, home. Now you might be thinking, why can't you just film Good Times Balls Deep at the Tex Messages studio? The reason why we can't do that is because the Tex Messages studio is kind of out in the sticks, so you could say, in the middle of nowhere, in Elk River, Minnesota. And Good Times Balls Deep is centrally located in St. Cloud, Minnesota. So that's probably about an hour deviation there. And then when you consider the amount of time required, because the host of Good Times Balls Deep, he's an honest, upstanding, morally sound person. He has multiple jobs, a family to raise. He's very, he reads all the time too. He doesn't really sleep very often, and he's a very busy guy. So he just doesn't have time to travel out to the Tex Messages studios here to film a show for you. So ultimately, the goal is just to find a physical structure in St. Cloud where we can most efficiently film the show and bring it to you, the ladies and gentlemen, home at a very, very high level. Because we don't want to just put crap out there. This show obviously, it's not the greatest. Eventually YouTube's probably going to get pissed off because I'll have all kinds of shows out there and practically no views. So the ratio of content to views will be so disproportionate that eventually YouTube will either just say, all right, let's throw this guy a bone or get him the hell out of here, whatever the case may be. Therefore, essentially we're just trying to promote Good Times Balls Deep, so whoever comes into contact with this show will know that Good Times Balls Deep is on the horizon too. And once Good Times Balls Deep does hit the airwaves, we might try to ride its wave of success. But ultimately, I think it's just, this is just going to be sideshow clown attraction. This is like the midget with the arm growing out of his face or something like that, and then Good Times Balls Deep will be the unicyclist on a tightrope juggling 6-7 flames blindfolded and doing backflips on a tightrope without a safety harness. That's essentially the carnival depiction of Good Times Balls Deep. So ladies and gentlemen at home, you can say a picture's worth 1,000 words. If I had a bunch of pictures back here of how excited I am about the show, that probably, I suppose you could extrapolate that into all the words that I'm trying to use to describe the exhilaration I have for Good Times Balls Deep. But yes sir, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Good to have you here on this Thursday evening, and we'll be back in 3 minutes. Thank you very much for listening. Welcome back to Tex Messages, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to have you here on this Thursday evening, March 29th, 2018 in Elk River, Minnesota, which is where the Tex Messages studio generally will be filmed out of. And I know a couple weeks ago we were on location in Cold Spring, Minnesota. I had to travel a little bit to procure some sponsorship, which unfortunately was a bit unsuccessful, but hey, you can't win at everything. Life is a battle. You're gonna come under fire sometimes. There's gonna be casualties. It's just mitigating casualties, picking your ass off the ground and moving forward. There's no time to look back or anything like that. If you're looking backwards, you're going backwards. So you look forward to go forward. No, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn from your past mistakes. If you do something completely idiotic and you feel bad about it, you learn from it. And you feel bad about it, so you try to burn it into your mind that you won't do it ever again. And then you move on. Sort of like if you do great things too, you want to be a little proud of yourself and reward yourself a little bit, but you also need to learn from those lessons too. If you do great things, you can, for me personally, if I get overconfident, then I fail, inevitably. Like playing a racing game or something, World of Outlaws. You got the little steering wheel and everything too, and if I'm hitting some cushions thinking I'm doing pretty good, I'm like, man, I got the hang of this, I'm doing great. Next thing you know, I'll jump the cushion, run into the wall, tires flat, car's over, race is done. Just by getting overconfident for just a split second, bad things can happen. So always, maybe not for you, but for me personally, it's always a good idea to stay grounded and always keep moving ahead and just, at least having some type of confidence or sense of purpose and well-being in whatever it is that you're doing, so you can put in a pretty good amount of effort too, and just be comfortable doing it. Sometimes, you need to get out of your comfort zone to achieve great things as well. So there's always that. All right. So I'm not sure I touched it last segment, but ultimately we're a pro-family show here, so I was going to talk a little bit about just I guess family stuff. So now a lot of people. One thing I've also noticed online and just in TV in general is they use sex as a selling point. And even on my own channel, I specifically put a video on there that objectifies the female anatomy, and that video probably has more views than basically all the rest of my videos combined. So it ultimately shows that sex does sell. And now, as a human being, basically sex is just, or watching pornos or whatever, or things of that nature. It's just basically for people that are too lazy to buy drugs, because they already got the circuitry set up, so they can just watch some show or whatever and pleasure themselves and move on with their life. It's basically a drug addiction. All this crap about like this one girl that poses nude because she's empowering her body or empowering herself. That's just the people holding the camera, the people marketing it, those guys holding the reflector pieces of paper, and the person in front of the camera, they all know that's complete BS. What's going to happen with those videos, some guy's going to watch it, he's going to think like, well, depending on the camera angles or the shots or the poses, maybe that's something I can jack off to. So, he's going to get a video up, maybe adjust the aspect ratio a little bit, slow it down in certain parts and be like, all right, maybe it wasn't anything I can jack off to, so I'll move on to some other video. That's all it is. Any of this marketing nonsense is just completely phony. It's so the posers, they can get their payoff, and because they know that sex sells, and they'll try to spin it off as some goofy stuff so they can put it on YouTube, or they can be child friendly when everybody knows it's all nonsense and baloney. And when the internet first came, you had pornos readily, like any 12-year-old kid could go up there and find practically any disgusting actions by, I guess you could call them consenting adults. They're getting paid, so I suppose if you're getting paid, it's easy to consent to something. But if you want to go through life just seeking out physical, meandering, worthless endeavors that make you feel like you just rolled through a landfill every time you engage in them, then hey, who am I to stop you? Creatures of higher consciousness like humans. It just doesn't make sense that we would seek only physical relationships like that. I mean, just the fact that you can imagine a spiritual world, or just the fact that you can actually talk to and communicate with other people, means that it's just that ridiculous to get involved with, watching pornos all the time, or beating off and doing all this other stupid stuff that you really don't have to. I mean, it's basically just like cocaine or crack or sugar. It's just an addiction, just like that. I mean, it's not like there's some silly studies out there like, oh, if you don't beat off once a week, you're going to get testicle cancer. I mean, that stuff is just pure nonsense. It's hot potato. Somebody somewhere came up with it. They're probably laughing their ass off when they're like, oh yeah, let's put this study out here and see what people say. And then they just hot potato it around everywhere. So they just take one piece of advice and then just it's cumulative effect. It goes everywhere. I mean, that's nonsense. It's not healthy. It's not. No one's going to respect you for it. It's just ridiculous and pathetic, and if anyone saw you do it, they'd probably think you were a pretty ridiculous person. Now, that being said, all right, let's see here. Kind of lost my train of thought a little bit there, but yeah, it's just a very angering topic. Now humans, yeah, they can talk to each other. They're spiritual creatures. Divine intervention is real. It is a thing. I've witnessed it many times in my life. Some people can shut themselves out to it, and some people can accept it. It's just a matter of if you want to accept being a winner or being a loser. It's kind of a state of mind. Now, yeah, I mean, there's this cat outside here. He's a cat. He doesn't really talk to people. He makes sounds, but he doesn't talk to people. A feral cat. He'll have sex with anything that moves. A chicken, a person, maybe a plant, and he might not even know female cats exist. For him, it's still kind of silly, but I mean, he's a cat. He doesn't really know English. He can't talk to other people I guess there are some instances where there are cats in near-death experiences, when people recall, like when they're about to die, they come back to Earth or whatever. They say that there are cats and dogs that are involved. So yeah, maybe cats are somewhat spiritual too, but I mean, for the most part, they're probably just seek out physical endeavors too. But yeah, I mean, as a person, just, it is what it is. There's certain parts of your body that are designed for a specific purpose, and if you try to manipulate them or utilize them for some your own weird pleasures, it just doesn't really do you any good. I mean, it may seem at the time that it's doing you good, but short run, long run, you're setting yourself up for disaster. So it's just best to work together with your body, to work with the Almighty, to work with the earth. Together, everyone achieves more. If you want to be a lone wolf and do everything yourself and figure life out all by yourself, I mean, yeah, eventually, you'll figure something out. But it's definitely, the sum of the parts are worth more than the whole. So, I mean, when you're on Earth, you're with other people, you're with the plants and the Almighty. It's just important to work with all entities as one powerful force, stronger than the force that connects the proton and the electrons, and all that terminology as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're looks like we're coming up to the. Well, I don't know if we got 10 minutes left or if we're actually past time, but I'll just assume that we got 10 minutes left. So now getting back to one thing that's been very dangerous is social programs and social engineering, because what it appears to do is it focuses on what they deem as vulnerable populations. Maybe, I don't know if Elk River would be considered a vulnerable population, but they try to focus on types of the population that they think could be easily manipulated, whether it's a poor community or a community where they are isolated from society. So they'll go to those types of communities and say they'll have like a welfare program or something like that. So they'll essentially reward single females for being single and for staying single, even if they're living with some other guy for 10 years or whatever. They can still get all their benefits and stay single and get money, and essentially baby farming, where they just get paid to have kids. So unfortunately what that does, though, is they don't see the value of the monogamous relationship. So they'll continue to have more kids, and it doesn't matter who the guy is. And from the guy's perspective, he'll just continue to lumber around and engage in these physical objects, except for him, he's probably thinking, well, hey, this is great. Rather than having to watch pornos, I can just go get the real thing on a regular basis and live happily ever after. But I mean, after a while, they basically lose their entire sense of purpose and well-being, and then it just becomes an addiction where their whole life is just short-term, clubbing it up on a Friday or Saturday and doing, accomplishing their physical pleasures, and then moving on till the next week. There's no long-term goal. There's no afterlife goal. It's just pretty much just a worthless week-to-week, day-to-day existence. And humans, while it may not be significantly clear at first, over time it becomes very clear that you can make the whole mind over matter argument, but for the most part it's mind with matter. Because you can't just say, I'm going to jump over this house, and then you can jump over it. That would be like mind over matter. But mind with matter, you might say, all right, I'm going to jump over this house, but first I need to have some type of very heavy springs, and then I need to have a parachute, or maybe I need to have some rocket booster. That's your matter thinking. And then it sends that back up to your mind, so your mind is like, oh, this is so great, that's a great idea, man. Yeah, pat you on the back, go ahead, go forward with it. You got my full support at all 8 cylinders, hit the gas, all cylinders firing. So that's why your mind works with your matter. I mean, yeah, you might read these silly motivational books that say, mind over matter, you can do anything you want to. And ultimately you probably can, but you have to work with your matter, and you have to realize practical limitations too. I mean, am I going to be able to be an Olympic track star at 30 whatever years old? Probably not. But do I want to be an Olympic track star at 30 whatever years old? Probably not. So there's also that to consider. It's not saying you can do anything. It's saying whatever you want within a reasonable paradigm or whatever. I mean, it's like, could Tex Messages be as good as Good Times, Balls Deep? Probably not. But I had to be realistic and say, we can at least be good enough to promote it and act as the sideshow attraction. See, that's what the world is. Finding where you fit and then placing your peg in that hole. And then just moving on and then making the best, just trying to be the best at whatever it is that you can be the best at. Just be the best at being yourself, essentially. I mean, we try to be other people. It is a good idea to model yourself after other people, especially if those other people are good, morally upstanding, hardworking people that are just make positive influences wherever they go. I mean, if you strive to be like Nikola Tesla or Elon Musk or whatever, that's spectacular. That's great. And I'm sure everybody pretty much knows in the back of their mind that they're not going to achieve, 30% of what those gentlemen achieve. There are some people that, yeah, probably will, but the average person who wants to raise a family and be an honest, hardworking person who wants to allocate time to do his own gardening or to weightlift on 3 days a week or spend a bunch of time writing down all the food he's eating and stuff, yeah, that person is probably not going to have the obsessive drive to succeed at levels of a specific focus like a Nikola Tesla or Elon Musk. I mean, people are just physiologically different than others. Could I look like Mark Henry if I worked out for a couple years? No, I couldn't, but that still doesn't mean that it's pointless to do it. It just means that you be realistic with your goal. It's mind with matter. Mind over matter just sounds like this weird control freak thing that is basically going to set you up for failure, anguish, and disappointment. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to achieve great things, because, yeah, I mean, you only live in this corporeal body once, so you may as well just try to, do something good with your life, or make yourself great again and make America great again. But you got to make sure you're eating healthy, you're exercising healthy, you have healthy relationship, you have a good support structure, good friends, good social networking, that you're a good person yourself, you're surrounded by good people. Anytime you go into public, you exude a sense of goodness and righteousness to everybody around you, so it's just more fun and easy going, and just trying to have good times basically, and be a good person, all that good fun stuff, because it starts with you and then it permeates out from there. Now there are other people that are just completely taken over by pernicious bad forces, and I mean, it's not really, the onus really isn't on you to try to make them great again. You just have to be yourself, be a good person, and sometimes you even have to just move on and move away, and just try to find good people in your life that resonate with you and jive with you, and you just have a good feeling to be around them and all that good fun stuff. And ultimately, that's probably you'll have success finding and starting a family if you follow that philosophy too. And if you're just going around at clubs and looking for whoever's got the best makeup on or whatever and having sex with them and then just having random kids everywhere, it's not going to be a very fruitful existence. You're probably going to be pretty miserable at some point, and then who knows what will happen. But yeah, it's just pro common sense, pro family, pro life, liberty in their pursuits of whatever we decide to pursue. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the conclusion of this show. We're going to have episode 12 will be Saturday night. No, episode 13, I got some big plans for that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm just going to crap on episode 12 and just completely overlook it and forget about it. But it just means episode 13 should be a pretty good show. I mean, it's episode 13. How could it not be a good show? So episode 12 will be Saturday night. Not really sure what the topic will be. I guess we'll kind of wing it from here. And yeah, good times, balls deep. We're looking for a different studio for it or something along those lines. The one we had wasn't really fitting the bill, so we got to deviate from that slightly and find something that'll make podcasting great again. With the pinnacle of podcasting, that will be good times, balls deep. So the reality is, this is just minutia right now because the host of Good Times Balls Deep will be the foundation of the show. I mean, that's what we're building on, and he's an extremely solid fund. I mean, he'd be like a 10-foot of thick, solid concrete that can flex and bend and can survive earthquakes and hurricanes and typhoons and King Kong, Godzilla, Bigfoot, all that. He could survive all that, so it's just a matter of building on that foundation that ultimately determines if the show is one of the all-time greats in podcasting or maybe the second greatest or something along those lines. So ladies and gentlemen at home, you're listening to Tex Messages. I'm the parasite of the show. I'm glad to have you here 3 nights a week. If you want to leave any comments about the show or any criticisms or suggestions, see, we got the five C's: comments, criticism, questions, compliments, and connections. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Thank you very much for listening.